Hey everyone, my name is Amber Powderly. Thank you for having me here today. I first off want to say that I am not a public speaker. This is my first time speaking in front of a crowd. It's also my first time telling my story from start to finish. Some of these details I have never spoken out loud at all, so please bear with me. I cannot promise that I can get through this without crying. I brought tissues just in case. When Christy asked me to speak today at Clayton's ribbon cutting ceremony, I didn't hesitate at all. My immediate answer was yes. She said, "Take some time, take the night, and really think about it." I immediately told her, "I don't need to think about it. My answer is yes, I'll do it." I've been asked to speak one other time since my journey at the Paula Takacs Foundation, the Sarcoma Stomp, and I turned it down. I've always regretted not doing it because I feel like there's a reason that I'm here and that I'm one of the few lucky ones to battle sarcoma and still be here to speak about it. So here we go. I'd like to tell you a little backstory about who I was prior to cancer because I think that the introduction makes a big impact on my story. Pre-cancer, I was Amber Nash. I was raised in Mount Holly with my two sisters, Erica and Ashley, to whom we are identical triplets. So when I say I was raised with two sisters, I was actually raised with two forever best friends. My dad was, at the time, and is still battling lung cancer. I completed my studies here in Charlotte and became a certified dental assistant and a dental hygienist. My entire dental career was spent at a local pediatric dentist office. Prior to my diagnosis, I lived a single, fun, carefree life, going out with my friends, working out, spending time with my niece and nephews, without the slightest bit of worry about when my last day on earth would be. I never went to the doctor. I didn't even have a primary physician, because why would I, right? Looking back at this time now, I was so ungrateful and unappreciative of being considered healthy. I first noticed symptoms in 2015, a year before my actual diagnosis. My veins in my right leg started to swell, continuing to grow larger and larger over time. I worked out a few days a week and was completely healthy, so I thought. So I brushed it off and contributed it to something workout related. My boss and close work friends pushed me to seek for an answer as my symptoms continued to worsen. Any physician I ever saw just brushed me off because I was young and healthy. After some time passed, I started to have numbness in my leg, sharp jolts of discomfort, weird throbbing sensations, and involuntary jerking of my leg that I hid from everyone. I remember driving and my leg jumping, staying up at night in discomfort and trying to move to different positions to get the pressure off of my right leg so that my symptoms could be alleviated and I could sleep. One day, a nodule finally popped up on my thigh, and my boss at the time, Dr. David Moore, immediately made an appointment for me that day to get a biopsy. He sent me home that day. I ended up at Levine's Cancer Institute with Dr. Jeffrey Niesel performing my biopsy. I'll never forget that day and our conversation. After completing my biopsy, I asked him, "If this is cancer, will you have to amputate my leg?" Dr. Niesel, being a father, grabbed me immediately and gave me the biggest dad hug and said, "Whatever this is, we will take care of it together. You are going to be fine and get through this." The love and compassion he showed me, a stranger, somehow gave me so much strength. When I got home that night, I researched my symptoms and what it could mean. There were two options, either a benign tumor or sarcoma. Of course, I dove way too deep into researching sarcoma that night. The statistics were shocking and devastating. There was only a 1% chance in my age group that it was sarcoma, which should make a person sigh with relief, right? But for some reason, I had an overwhelming feeling that I was that 1% with sarcoma. I think I felt like I'm already a rare statistic being an identical triplet, so why would I not be another? My research immediately stopped there because Google can be your worst enemy. I decided right then and there that if I did have sarcoma, I would never hit the search button on Google for it ever again. And still to this day, I have kept that promise to myself. I truly believe that not seeing the terrible statistics or stories online have helped me to keep a positive mindset throughout my experience. They say ignorance is bliss, right? I received a voicemail at work a few days before my scheduled results appointment requesting me to come in that afternoon for results. As you can guess, this confirmed for me that I was the 1% that was being diagnosed with sarcoma. Since it was a work day, I had no family or friends that could leave to go with me. One of my coworkers just happened to have a sister working in the same building. So she contacted her and she met me at my appointment so that I could have some support and love during my appointment. The outpour of love and support from her, even though I didn't know her, was a foreshadowing of how I'd be treated by every single person throughout my entire journey. I was diagnosed with Ewing Sarcoma on March 16, 2016 at 28 years old. It's weird. I didn't cry. I wasn't worried. I felt strong. I felt able. I felt confident. I felt like I only had one option. It wasn't to break down and cry. It was to hold my head high and try to conquer this disease with as much grace and power as I could for as long as I possibly could. My motivation was my grandmother. She had the most amazing grace and strength during her battle with pancreatic cancer, never showing her pain or struggle until the day she left this earth. I always admired her and respected her for it, and I was determined to be just like her. I didn't go to church every Sunday, but I did believe in God, and at this exact moment, I truly felt his presence all around me. Now, I must give credit where credit is due. Am I the strongest woman on earth? No. Am I Superwoman? No, absolutely not. When I was diagnosed, my family started a fundraising group without me knowing, named Team Amber, where they sold t-shirts and completed multiple fundraisers for me so that I could stay out of work, eat healthy food, pay my bills, keep my condo, and truly focus on life and becoming healthy again. I can 100% say that without this love and support, I would have crumbled. My strength was because of my support system. People from my past, present, and even future all came together, sending care packages, cards, purchasing shirts, coming to runs, meeting at bars, dropping off food, driving me to and from appointments. The love and support was so tangibly strong. Although I appreciated the support more than anything, I also truly believe that the friends and family of the diagnosed need just as much care and love and support. They truly carry a heavy load. My parents were caring for my dad, who was undergoing treatments for lung cancer. My sister Erica was a stay-at-home mom with 3 very small kids. My sister Ashley was a full-time dental assistant at the exact same pediatric office I was and had just had her first baby. I'll never know how they did it, but they coordinated so many events to raise money to support me financially. They also took me to and from appointments, brought me smoothies to the hospital, constantly coordinating with my friends for smoothie drop-offs to ensure I was eating something constantly. If I ever had any side effects and was homebound, they would show up with a remedy to help me, or they would just show up to crawl in bed and snuggle with me. They never complained and never made me feel like I was a burden. I know that my sisters missed important quality time with their family and husbands during my treatment that they could never get back, and I am forever grateful because I know without them I would not be alive today. The days and weeks to come were a blur. I was rushed on for scans, bone biopsies, echocardiograms, ultrasounds, port placement, wig shopping, hospital shopping. The scans were awful and still are. They're so scary. I remember breathing deep in and deep out throughout in constant prayer during them, trying to send as much positive energy to my body and tumor, praying oh so hard that it was localized to my thigh, and that if only positive energy could shrink it at all, that I would send as much as I could to that area. One of my hardest appointments was seeing Reach, a fertility specialist here in Charlotte. The doctors there wanted me to freeze my eggs because there was a high risk I would be sterile after completing my chemotherapy and radiation treatments. As a woman, having your option to have kids naturally taken away from you in a blink of an eye is devastating. The doctors at Reach told me that since I am an identical triplet, my sisters and I have the same eggs. That's crazy, right? So, with both of my sisters generously offering me their healthy eggs post-cancer treatment if I needed it, and even one of them offering to carry a child for me, I declined freezing my eggs. It seemed very selfish to push back the start of my treatment and spend a lot of money on something only God could control in the end. My favorite appointment Post-diagnosis and pre-chemotherapy was my annual tax meeting with my CPA, Jim Powderly. My sister Ashley went with me because my appointment was immediately after a doctor's appointment. This was exactly 1 week after my diagnosis. I had known Jim from annual meetings and had even gone on a couple dates with him years prior. But on this day, this appointment, it was different. Ashley told him of my diagnosis so that he could aid with financial advice for the upcoming year. Jim broke down to us speaking of his sister who was currently battling lung cancer and has since passed. The three of us laughed and cried during my entire appointment. From that day forward, I have never gone a day without speaking to Jim. He respectfully courted me throughout my entire treatments. For the good, the bad, the ugly, the happy, the sad, the bald, he was there for me. It's an eye-opener when you're diagnosed with cancer. You find that everyone around you has been impacted by cancer in one form or another. I'm sure everyone in this room could raise their hands and say that some form of cancer has impacted their lives, even outside of Clayton. Now it was time to start my treatments. My brother-in-law, Nick, and one of my very best friends took me to my first day of treatment. It was there that we received the great news. My original biopsy had been sent for further testing, and the results showed my diagnosis was not Ewing Sarcoma, but Synovial Sarcoma, which cut my treatment time down significantly. It cut my treatment time from 1 year to 3 months of chemotherapy. My treatment was 5 days of chemotherapy, then 2 weeks off for only 4 rounds. I was given a chemotherapy cocktail of ifosfamide and doxorubicin, also known as the Red Devil. I felt like I could happy scream from the tallest building in Charlotte. What an amazing way to start your first day of chemotherapy. The chemotherapy process, even though I never wrote it down, is engraved in my mind forever. It was always the same. Someone would pick me up at my condo, take me to do blood work, and then I would check into the hospital, being monitored and hooked up constantly for 4 to 5 days straight. When the nurses would administer the Red Devil, they would come in my room with hazmat suits on, dressed from head to toe, and sit beside me and push it through my port slowly. My oncologist, Dr. Livingston, would wake me up every single morning that I was in the hospital to check on me, and he would always come with a smile and a joke. He was my alarm clock. Each time when my treatments were complete and I walked out of the hospital, my heart would race. I took deep breaths of fresh outdoor air and felt the warmth of the sun on my skin while someone pulled the car around. You take so much for granted until you're hooked up to machines constantly for days straight in a hospital. Each day when I left the hospital, I would go for a jog or a walk around my condo complex just to prove to myself that I was still alive and that I could move and do as much as I wanted. Every day that I felt well, I was out and about celebrating life and making memories, even bald. I cared so much about my hair prior to losing it. I never thought I would be okay with no hair. But I realized I was still me. It just didn't take as long to get ready. I also never expected to start dating my soulmate bald, wearing a wig or a baseball cap, having extreme hot flashes, nausea, and many other side effects. But I guess that's what makes my story mine. I know exactly why you get 2 weeks off during chemotherapy treatments. The chemotherapy effects get worse and worse the more chemotherapy you have. It's almost like your body gets so beat down that you just can't recoup even if you want to. One of my worst symptoms was nausea. I could barely stomach any food but fruit. By the end of the treatments, I could only stomach smoothies. On my very last week of chemotherapy, I couldn't even have a food tray brought into my room without getting sick. I still to this day, 5 years later, have a hard time eating certain foods. It's a constant reminder. After chemotherapy, I sailed through my radiation treatments and was ready for surgery. The surgery was completed right after my 29th birthday. Dr. Niesel came in to see me during my pre-op on surgery day. Of course, having our close relationship by now, I looked him in the eyes and said, "Please take as long as you need. Please remove as much as you need to make sure that you get everything. I don't care how much you take away from me. Just make me cancer-free. I can recover from anything." He, of course, agreed and hugged me. I'm a hugger. It's very hard mentally to be put to sleep knowing that when you wake up, you might be missing your leg. My sisters and Jim also came in before I was rolled back, and we all hugged, cried, and prayed together because the Bible says, wherever 2 or 3 come together in my name, I will be there with you. Then we all flipped Big Bertha, which I had named my tumor. We all flipped her off and told her goodbye. So apparently, I got to keep my leg, right? My surgery lasted a lot longer than expected. Dr. Niesel told me after that he really took to heart what I told him in pre-op. He told me that he went back and forth removing more and more to ensure that he received clear margins. The tumor was in fact wrapped around my femoral artery. So along with the tumor, they removed part of my femoral artery and then did a vein artery graft. I was chair-bound for a couple weeks, wheelchair-bound, and even had to use a walker. When you look at me now and what I've been through, it really puts life into perspective. You can never look at someone and say that they are healthy and have no underlying issues because you truly never know. At age 29, I was officially cancer-free. Of course, by this time, I was madly in love with Jim. We started talking about eloping as soon as we could. In December, 3 months after my surgery, we found out we were pregnant with our first daughter, Demi. We were over the moon excited and considered her our miracle baby. I gave birth to her in September. Jim and I were finally able to elope with Demi as our witness in January. A month later, in February, my doctors told me that I had spots growing in both lungs. We scheduled surgeries immediately for removal, not knowing if they were sarcoma related. They actually were sarcoma related in both lungs. After that, I had to hear the hard truth from my husband. Amber, you have just finished stage 4. Do you know that, right? I didn't know that. I cried. It was very devastating to hear. My oncologist told me that I was maxed out on chemotherapy and that surgery for removal was a cure. So again, now, at age 30, I was able to say, I'm cancer-free. Yay. Since my recurrence, I have graduated from scans every 3 months to every 6. I am beyond blessed to say that I've been able to welcome into this world 2 more healthy kids, Leo and Sylvie, with no medical help from Reach. What a miracle. I also left the dentist's office to be a stay-at-home mom and start my own small business. I feel grateful and honored to be able to stand here before you today, 5 years after my initial diagnosis, and be able to say, I am cancer-free. Thanks. Thanks. I am once again, a small, rare statistic, but this time for the best. To Clayton's family, if they're here today, I don't know if they are. Is Clayton's family here?
No.
No, okay. Well, I'm so very sorry for your loss. I cannot imagine your pain. It's not fair that I am here before you instead of him. But if there's one thing we do know about cancer, is that it does not discriminate. It doesn't care about your age, gender, background, spiritual beliefs, or if you are a husband, wife, father, son, mother, daughter. I'll leave you with this. My husband said this statement to me during my treatment, and I hold it so very close to my heart always. Every day you can and do fight, someone is one day closer to finding a cure. I hope that we all choose to fight daily until there is a cure. Thank you.